Good morning. I'm Astrid Fuentes. I am the CHCI International Affairs Postgraduate Fellow presented by Open Society. I'm delighted to be with you today for the Shaping the Global Landscape, Latinos Making an Impact on the International Stage session. Thank you for joining us. I am a Texas native and I grew up in a bicultural, binational community. And it was a positive foreign relations, our positive relationship with our southern neighbors that impact our daily lives at home in Texas. And so today's panel is a really great opportunity to hear more about how we can pursue these efforts in a career and a professional manner. So on behalf of CHCI, I would like to thank Visa and Halion for their generous support of this session. It is now my honor to introduce welcoming remarks from Session Chair Senator Bob Menendez. As Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for the 118th Congress, he is pursuing a foreign policy that promotes policies that reinforce the transatlantic relationship and builds a strong national security posture. As a senator representing New Jersey, he also works to support us here at home. As a senior member of the Senate Finance Committee, he has sponsored legislation increasing access to health care, advocated for fairness in the tax code to help middle-class families get college educations and be able to retire, and pushed for trade initiatives to ensure America's global competitiveness. So without further delay, please help me welcome Senator Bob Menendez.
Bueno, muy buenos días a todos. Bienvenido a Washington. Un placer tenerlo aquí en este momento en nuestra historia. So welcome again. Thank you to Astrid for a very gracious introduction. My special thanks to CHCI Chairman Espaillat. Es para allá que vamos. So, and we're staying, as he says. So for once again putting together an impressive panel for this important discussion. Next year actually marks my 50th year in public service. Thank you. I'm not that old. I just started very young, changing my local school board when I was 19. And then as mayor, I served in both houses of the New Jersey legislature, then to the House of Representatives, and then in 2006 to the Senate. And one thing I've always said that is as true today as it was 5 decades ago is that our nation is better off when we promote diversity at every level of our society, from CEOs in the private sector to state or federal political leaders to, of course, the diplomats as well as down to the interns who make up our foreign policy community. But while 1 in 5 people are Latino in the United States, about 20%, the Latino population is also one of the fastest growing in our nation. Only 7% of State Department Foreign Service specialists are Latino, and barely 6% of USAID employees are Latino. And for me, that's absolutely outrageous. It's not just a missed opportunity for the advancement of American interests around the world, or a missed opportunity for the Latino community to make our voices heard in every country and in every capital across the globe. It is a failure on the part of the foreign policy community and our government institutions. Americans from diverse backgrounds can make a powerful case for our country. I saw that when I was in China, where an African American was the head of the political affairs division in our embassy in China, who had been involved in the civil rights struggle. As he was speaking to Chinese dissidents about their fight for human rights and political freedom, his personal experiences in the civil rights struggle in the United States were a powerful testament to those who were seeking the same opportunities in their country. Many Latinos still have family overseas. You know these countries better than anyone. Custom, language, culture, that makes you natural ambassadors. And if anyone doesn't think that that understanding of customs and language and culture is significant, as Chevrolet. Years ago, Chevy tried to sell a car called a Nova in Latin America. Now, as you all know, for those of you who speak Spanish, if you say no va, it means it doesn't move, it won't go, and I don't care what type of marketing program you have, it didn't sell very well. That's just a small example of the understanding of language, customs, and culture. That kind of life experiences is an asset to our nation that simply cannot be purchased. I'm proud that throughout my career I have advocated for Latinos to have their rightful place at the table. As the first chairman of Hispanic descent in the history of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I've held hearings to get to the bottom of why we don't see more diversity at places like USAID and the State Department. Recently, I've been working on legislation to increase diversity across the State Department, from entry-level officers to mid-level hires to the senior ranks of our ambassadors, so that Americans of all backgrounds, of all ethnicities, and all socioeconomic levels have the opportunity to serve their country abroad. I'm proud that I have successfully fought to see more Latino ambassadors and senior executives in our organizations, and to get paid internships at the State Department, because too many of our young men and women would love to consider a career in the Foreign Service, but they cannot offer, as others can, they cannot come and do an internship because they need the money to pay for their very living here. I'm glad that we finally have paid internships at the State Department. And just this year, I'm proud to have championed the confirmation of Dr. Adriana Kugler to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, who previously served the U.S. Executive Director of the World Bank. Over the course of the 110-year history of the Federal Reserve that makes huge economic decisions in our country, there has never been a Latino until Dr. Kugler was confirmed. And I'm glad that we were able to make history in having her confirmed until this year. It's the first time ever. Because of her confirmation, the voices and perspective of Latino Americans will be held at the highest levels. This would not have been possible without the dedication and commitment of the Latino community, including so many of you here today. Because of your tenacity, we not only confirmed an exceptional economist, we took steps towards a more inclusive, diverse, and representative America. That takes courage and relentlessness, and I salute all of you here for the work that you are doing and continue to do. Of course, I think we can all agree that we have a lot more that we can do. I look around this room, and I know that we cannot rest until the day we have a Latino as the head of USAID, until we have a Latino as a Secretary of State of the United States. Our dear friend Bill Richardson, who passed away, was an extraordinary public servant in this field as our former ambassador to the United Nations, or until we have a Latino in the White House as President of the United States. Someday, someone here in this room or at this gala will reach those heights. So whether your family comes from Colombia or the Dominican Republic or Ecuador or Puerto Rico or Cuba or from New Jersey, let's keep fighting for what is right. Let's stand up to have our voices heard. Let's have an impact on the international stage and make a safer, more prosperous world for all of us. Adelante, gracias por tenerme con ustedes.
Thank you, Senator Bob Menendez, for your work and for joining us today. We are also lucky to have a second panel chair with us today, Congressman Adriano Espaillat. He is Deputy Chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and Chairman of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. He represents New York's 13th Congressional District, which includes some of New York's most notable communities, including Harlem, East Harlem, West Harlem, Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, Inwood, Marble Hill, and the Northwest Bronx. Representative Espaillat serves as a member of the influential U.S. House Committee on Appropriations, responsible for funding the federal government's vital activities, and is a ranking member of the Legislative Branch Subcommittee on the committee. He also serves on the U.S. House Budget Committee, and recently he issued a joint statement with colleagues to ensure federal support of the newly arrived families with the humanity and dignity they deserve. Please welcome Congressman Adriano Espaillat.
Buenos dias. Good morning. Well, I hadn't heard that Nova statement from Chevrolet, but they should have just named the car Es pa' allá que vamos. It would have been a lot easier for that. But, language access continues to be also an important quest for our community. I remember once while I was advocating for language access in the hospitals, that I was explaining to a senior that was taking her medication that once a day did not mean 11 times. 11, ¿verdad? I said, 11 in English means uno en español. So it is so important. But welcome to this CHCI conference. And this is such an important issue of shaping the global landscape and making Latinos have an impact on the global stage. Because we are, in many ways, a global community. And we bring with us everything that we carry from our home countries. So we bring the salsa with us. We bring the cumbia with us. We bring the merengue with us, the mariachi with us. All of that, all of those rhythms that are played by similar instruments, right? We bring with us to the stage. And so this is a global community right here. And we must then have an impact on the global stage. And I'm honored to share the stage with Senator Menendez, who is a pivotal figure. He has a leadership role as a Cuban American shaping the agenda for the global stage. Imagine that we have the son of Cubans at the table. And as they say often, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And so to have him there is such an important opportunity. And also joining us is Emerita Torres with the Community Service Society of New York, Leopoldo, who's my good friend, Leopoldo Martinez of the Center for Democracy and Development in the Americas, Enrique Benavides with Visa, and all of you are leaders that will help us. The Bronx is here too. Okay. The Boogie Down Bronx as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop. Who would have thunk, right? And so this is an important venue and this is an important stage for us to share ideas, not just about our local communities, not just about a particular issue here and there, but about the global stage. Why shouldn't we have an opinion about that? Why should we be on the sideline? Why should we be on the stands? We should be right on the stage, as you are today, making the decisions that will impact the global stage. And as the senator mentioned, our numbers in the State Department are dismal. They're really embarrassing, right, in many ways. And we could have such an advantage if so many of you here, with the talents that you bring, could be in those positions, making a direct impact because you understand this better than anybody else. You bring with you the tools, las herramientas, to make it happen, right? And to make sound decisions that will make our country move to another level in the world stage. And as we see what's manifesting itself at the border, as we see the migration patterns, which, by the way, are not just in this hemisphere, but they're global in scope. But it's really something that's manifesting itself at the border because of decades of benign neglect and looking the other way and not having people like you at the table that will direct us in the right direction. So your performance here, your participation here is such an important, and we seen, for example, the difference that somebody like Yulisa Reynoso has made in Spain as ambassador of the United States to Spain. Eric Garcetti was just sent to India, and Ken Salazar is in Mexico. And Mary Carmen Aponte is in Panama. Imagine that. We're dealing with what they call el pantano, right? It's not easy in the Panamanian jungle where these migrants are going. We have an ambassador there, Mary Carmen Aponte, who understands this. And Cynthia Teles in Costa Rica. And we have two others in Natalie Reyes and Ana Escrojima, who have been nominated, respectively, to Croatia and Oman. So our presence in the global stage is necessary for our nation to continue to move forward. I hope that you really enjoy the program and the gala. This is a conference I think that broke all records. We should have altogether over 3,000 participants. And so this is huge. This is a great opportunity to hear from you. I hope that you enjoy this panel, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. God bless you. And I said, the late and great Ann Clayton Powell used to say in Harlem, keep the faith, baby. Take care.
Thank you, Congressman Espaillat. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's session, Esmerita Torres. Ms. Torres is the Vice President of Policy, Research, and Advocacy for the Community Service Society of New York, where she is responsible for directing data-driven public policy and research to address economic inequalities facing low-income communities of color. She has over a decade of experience as a U.S. diplomat of the U.S. Department of State, with tours including Brazil, Pakistan, Colombia, Washington, D.C., and our U.S. mission to the United Nations. Ms. Torres is a recipient of 3 Meritorious Honor Awards and a Superior Honor Award for her diplomatic service. We are looking forward to a great discussion, so without further delay, please help me welcome Emerita Torres.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank again Senator Menendez and Congressman Espaillat for setting the context for this important conversation. And thank you to CHCI for hosting this incredible conference. I'm an alum, and it's great to see how this conference has manifested the way it has over the years, so it's really beautiful to see. So this panel, titled Shaping the Global Landscape, Latinos Making an Impact on the International Stage, is why we're here. Americans have fought to make clear that our country's representation, both nationally and internationally, ought to reflect the diverse voices and lived experiences of its citizens. We know that. This is because how we show up as a nation, our ideals, our values, are how we are perceived on the world stage. It determines our credibility abroad as we promote democracy, diversity, free and fair trade, economic prosperity, and the like. And while the United States, we do take pride in our diverse, multicultural society and community, when our international ranks do not reflect that, it weakens our ability to be recognized and credible on the world stage and be an effective world leader. I'm not going to repeat the grim statistics that Senator Menendez shared, but I'd like to say in contrast, we have a wonderful, distinguished panel that is making a significant impact in their respective fields, from business to diplomacy to politics on the world stage. And today we're here to learn how they did that and how we're going to make inroads for the future so that Latinos can and continue to be, and even more so, on the world stage. So I'm going to start with some brief introductions of our panelists. First, we have Leopoldo Martinez to my right, founder of the Center for Democracy and Development in the Americas, and IQ Latino. He is also President Joe Biden's nominee to become the U.S. Executive Director of the Inter-American Development Bank, and he's awaiting confirmation by the U.S. Senate. That deserves an applause. Next, we have Enrique Benavides, who is a Senior Manager for Global Government Engagement at Visa. He's also worked with Ambassadors Thomas R. Pickering, the World Bank Group, the Inter-American Dialogue, and the Embassy of El Salvador. Our next panelist is Helen Rosario. Yes, please. Our next panelist is Helen Rosario. She leads the Workplace Solution Team for the Americas Commercial and Global Research and Development at Haleon. She has international and global management experience, as has led teams around the globe. Helen, nice for you to be here. And finally, we have Hermes Grullon, a U.S. Foreign Service officer at the U.S. Department of State, where he has served since 2015. He serves right now, currently, as the Foreign Service Orientation Deputy Course Coordinator. So he is the person that welcomes every Foreign Service officer that comes into the Department of State. He is a leader also in the foreign affairs community. For example, he's helping build a pipeline for Latinos and people of color through the Pickering and Rangel Association. So before we get started, I just want to invite all of you to, if you want to tweet about this, talk about this online, you can use the hashtag CHCIHHM23, so use the hashtag. And so we have such a rich experience on this stage. I'd love for all of us to just talk maybe for 2 minutes. How did you get here? What was your trajectory? And maybe we can be inspired by your story. Let's start with Leopoldo.
Thank you. Does it work well? Thank you for having me, and thank you for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute for putting this panel together. My journey is an interesting one because I started as a lawyer in Venezuela, my home country, practiced internationally, was a professor of law at the Catholic University in Caracas, and at some point in time, Hugo Chavez emerged as a political phenomenon at the time, and I was pretty much against what he was representing and saying because I could visualize what was coming with him ascending into power. So some people thought I was popular enough in the faculty to be a candidate supported by a broad coalition that comprised a number of parties in Venezuela, and I was elected. How I got to the United States is summarized in an anecdote. We were filibustering in the Assembly, the Congress of Venezuela, one of the legislations that Chavez wanted to get passed to pack the whole judiciary system, which is one of the reasons why Venezuela, unfortunately, has become the dictatorship it is these days. And I was pretty much leading a filibuster effort. But the filibuster there was not just having the votes to block, it was, standing and speaking. So we spent the whole week speaking for hours, back to back, until Saturday when the leadership on Chavismo said, okay, we'll take this law back to the committees before we continue to try to pass it. So I joined my family in a restaurant in Caracas, and everybody stood in a standing ovation when I came in the restaurant, and my mother said, I was a very stronghold where I was elected of the opposition to Chavez, and my mother, who had lived exile of her father, fighting another dictator in her time, said, well, these applauses here are not what's happening all over the country. I just want to warn you that what you're doing is going to end up in prison or in exile. I hope it's exile. So exile it was. I came to the United States with my wife and 4 kids, fleeing the persecution of Hugo Chavez back in the day. And I re-engaged in politics here in the United States a little later after practicing again as an international lawyer, founding the Center for Democracy and Development in the Americas, where we host a variety of programs that address foreign policy and empowering Latinos in the foreign policy space. And I started my political work with Latino Victory Project. I was the founding chairman of that effort. And President Biden, after 3 presidential campaigns, we won the re-election of Obama. We lost, sadly, in 2016, and then we won again with President Biden, and he was gracious enough to honor me with this nomination. So that's the pathway. There's a lot of anecdotes in between, but and a lot of running from threats and but.
Thank you. It's an inspiration, really. Thank you. Enrique, please.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here today and for CHCI for hosting this session. Just for my story, back in 2006, my family decided to migrate to Texas just to seek better economic opportunities at that time. And I arrived undocumented at that time, but given that I was minor, I didn't have any issues. As I arrived, I really saw all the economic opportunities that different private sector, government, and stakeholders wanted to bring to Latin America and across the world. I think that they see the same type of opportunities that are given here. They want to they want to share those in countries back home. But I really saw a role just in terms of international affairs. How can we moderate between two cultures trying to advance a common goal? I think what they were saying, just the anecdote of Nova, that's kind of not understanding your market that you're serving. As I try to pursue a career in international affairs and went to school, I faced the challenges of being an undocumented student. And even after I got my legal status, I really kind of, the stigma of being an immigrant kind of chased me and left me kind of in the shadow of not really being able to tell my story of being an immigrant. But it wasn't until I went to American University and I studied international relations there that a teacher, in a discussion, we agreed to do an independent study and write my immigration story just to be comfortable about how being an immigrant defines me. And I think mentorship and different leaders that have supported me through the journey have enabled me on the opportunities just to kind of continue my inroads into international affairs. As it was mentioned, Ambassador Thomas Pickering and former Trade Representative Carla Hills, they took a chance to work with them in their consulting company, learning a little bit of trade policy and how that affects the private sector as they try to expand their operations around the world. At the time, I was actually working with Ambassador Hills, and she was the former negotiator of the North America Free Trade Agreement. And this was the time when President Trump was renegotiating the agreement. So I got to see firsthand how commerce happens through trade agreements, how it impacts global companies, and that's kind of how I got to Visa. But now I think it's just kind of how I pay it forward, trying to support other rising leaders here.
That's wonderful. Front row seats and after. That's
Yeah.
great. Helen, please.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much to CHCI for having us. I'm a proud Puerto Rican. And if you know about Puerto Rico, I'm from Calle. Okay, very proud of it. My background is engineering, but I came also from a political family. And part of what I learned from my parents, it is servant leadership. And I took the technical side in my career as an engineer, but also looking for opportunities on how we can represent Latinos in the international stage. And even at the university, I was engaged in the United Nations model that I went two times. The second time I was the head leader for our University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez. And over the years, working on the private sector, I was looking for opportunities to make an impact globally. In 2004, I was so blessed to be chosen to be the first Latino to be an expat in Singapore HP, Hewlett-Packard. I was in Hewlett-Packard at that time. And to be honest, it was, even for me, a shock, which it is something that we, the Latinos, we need to work a lot with the imposter syndrome, to say, hey, why me? You know, and took so much, a lot of time to realize because I deserve it, because this is my place, and this is where I will make a major impact, not only for me, also for the other Latinos that I opened the door. And being there, leading engineering teams from Singapore and leading the Puerto Rico, the San Diego, the Ireland teams, from there was an amazing experience. I came back to Puerto Rico because of personal reasons, and I was so blessed to meet again my love of my life. And then coming back to Singapore, married, in 2016, and leading engineering teams for the whole Asia. In that case was with CBRE, that is a real estate and facilities management. I was in charge of the whole Singapore business. You know, we are talking about over 40 accounts. We are talking about over 120 million year business. And the Southeast Asia, what we call at that point of time, platform and engineering support. came back. Now we are living in Rhode Island. I'm working with Halion, used to be formerly GSK, and I'm leading the Americas Real Estate and Facilities Management from the whole Americas, from Canada up to Chile and Argentina, and also global R&D sites from Virginia, that yesterday night I came from Richmond. I'm coming back tonight. And also in UK, and also the sites that we have in India, Singapore, and China. For me, what it is important, it is to highlight that you can do an impact wherever you are, okay? And one of the things that I have very clear on my mind, it is everywhere I go, I'm Latina, I'm proud of being Latina, and I represent the Latinos. I'm not just representing, again, myself. And that comes very close to my heart. And it is very close to my heart in Halion. I'm leading what we call our ERG, our Employee Resource Group, globally our Latino, making sure that we open opportunities for the Latinos, not only in the United States, also everywhere where we are in Halion. We are on over 23,000 employees company that we have, we serve over 1.4 billion people every day. And we have a very amazing coaching and mentoring program, which comes very close to my heart because I believe this is one of the things that we need to do as Latinos to keep supporting others, to keep growing. Thank you again for the opportunity, and we will talk later about other
Thank you
stuff.
so much, Hermes. Last but not least.
Yes. Round of applause. Well, it's good to be here with all of you. My name is Hermes Grullon. I was the first in my family to graduate from college. Grew up in a low-income housing. From Brooklyn, New York, for the New Yorkers here. And also lived in the Midwest, in Indiana, for people from the Midwest. And for me, my family's also Dominican. And I think that was, for the Dominican, that was, going from New York to Indiana was got me to question, to look at the history of Dominican Republic. And then it brought me to having an international focus, really focusing on the history within Africa, within Europe, to a lot of parts of the world. And that's what got me into international affairs. But then I was put on a pipeline that got me from my freshman year into this career. I went to Howard University for 2 summers. First, with the Wrangell Summer was a different program, but the program I want to emphasize to you is one, the Gilman Scholars Program. The Gilman program is for Pell Grant recipients to be able to study abroad. I was able to go to Nicaragua with that and be able to have an exposure to live overseas. The second program, the Wrangell Summer Scholars Program. This is for sophomores and juniors to be able to get exposure to careers in international affairs, particularly State Department. And then I got the Pickering Fellowship that gave me a contract to be a U.S. Foreign Service officer. And that's how more or less put me on that pathway. But someone sold to me what it meant to be a diplomat, to serve your country, to be able to be paid to learn languages, for you to be the face of the United States, and for you to make a difference, to be, as some have said, a professional troublemaker, to be a change agent, and representing the United States. There are many different career paths, and there are many different programs which we can get into. But I want to emphasize that, be informed and apply, put your name in the hat. But you can serve the United States and be the face. We need all of you. We don't just need you because of your background. We need you because you can make a difference and you're going to be a change agent. We don't need people just because of how they look, or we need them because of the experiences that they bring, the different diversity of thought, and we need everybody at the table for all the challenges we face in the world. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. I love the term. I think global public troublemaker, maybe. Good trouble. Good trouble.
Good trouble.
Thank you so much. Actually, I want to turn it back to you, Hermes, because I'm from the State Department as well. I know you've been there since 2015. It's a leading foreign policy making body. It is the face of America. When you enter an embassy for foreign nationals, it's the first time often that they are interacting with the U.S. government, with America. And so it's so important that we are the face and we are representing America. And it looks like our population. And right now, unfortunately, It doesn't. So I'd love to hear, Hermes, from you on what are some of the things that the State Department's doing to address this. What are some things, I know you're a part of several organizations and several scholarships and fellowships. What can be done here?
So we have several diversity flagship programs, fellowships, that will give you a contract to the State Department. Some of them are open right now. The Pickering Fellowship is open to September 21st, and that gives you a contract to be a foreign service officer, pays for graduate school, gives you internships domestically and overseas. So that's the Pickering, September 21st. Rangel Fellowship, September 28th. Very similar, but it gives you a congressional internship. There's also the Foreign Affairs IT Fellowship for those who are IT, who work in information technology. There's the Clark Fellowship for Diplomatic Security, which is our law enforcement arm of this, and you get to work in the embassies. So I think we have a lot of different programs. The Payne Fellowship for USAID. There's even for the Foreign Agricultural Service, there's a diversity fellowship. So those are different programs that are available to you, as well as, and I think that the Foreign Service test is also open. It's a free test that anybody can take. So the key thing is getting out there and getting folks to apply and bring them into the door. But you have to put yourself out there and apply. These programs are competitive. Last year, there were 1,300 people for 45 slots in the Pickering Fellowship. But in the current Foreign Service orientation class, there was somebody that amazed me. He applied for the Pickering Fellowship 3 times, didn't get it, still applied for the Foreign Service written exam and got in. And he's Latino. He's first generation from Chicago. And I think spreading the word, telling the story of the Foreign Service is a way to get people in. And then to keep people in, it's a different discussion, but we are creating networks and families, whether Pickering or Rangel, we have a Hispanic Employee Association, a lot of other affinity organizations to make sure that you're supported throughout your career. One of the reasons why I went to the Foreign Service orientation team, we changed jobs every 2 years, was because I wanted to get people in the beginning and to let them know, I'm here to support you throughout your entire career. I've been very fortunate to be promoted on the first time twice. So I know how to succeed in the system, but I'm trying to also bring other people along. So that's one way that at an individual level I'm trying to support, but also these programs are a way to get people in.
Thank you so much. The support network is so crucial. Thank you, Hermes, for that. Thank you for that. So I want to turn to the private sector for Helen, actually. So we know what's happening in the private sector impacts Latinos in international work and in the workforce more broadly, also for Enrique. Our workforce must represent the diversity of America. And it's not just a national security imperative, it's an economic imperative as well. So what's happening in the private sector that impacts Latinos in international work?
Well, let me start with numbers. I know we heard about some of the numbers on the public sector are not different in the private sector, okay? From the top 500 companies, Standard & Poor's, only 16 CEOs are Latinos. And for me, it is important not to use the 16, because we will keep the 16. No. This is 3.2%. I wanted you to keep in your mind, 3.2% of the CEOs of the top 500 companies. If we go to executive level, not CEOs, we are in 5.8%. However, our population in the United States, it is, as Senator Menendez said, keep growing almost 20%. Makes sense? No, it doesn't make sense. And we need to be intentional. And we need to be clear, because this, in my case, that I'm in the 5.8%, we have the responsibility to keep opening doors in an intentional way. We need to have the responsibility knock the door to our top executives, to share with them how important it is, the Latino community. How important it is for business, because we are almost the 20% on the United States. We are talking about a lot of millions of people. It is good for business, but it's also good in terms of bringing new perspectives. However, it is clear as well, and it is not only, in US, I'm telling you, it is internationally, that there are biases. And there's a lot of scrutiny with our backgrounds. There's a lot of biases because there's not a clear understanding on our culture. The Nova, the other, the Once, our own ones, all of that we need to, that are a challenge, and we need to keep working toward that. And the other thing it is, we are identifying, and there's several papers about lack of intentional work to make it happen in the private, same, and the public sector. Therefore, we need to work together to make sure that we develop the strategies, we implement those strategies, and we make sure that we place our Latinos leaders in the table. And I don't want to leave, you guys without the mindset that we need to be where the decisions are taken. If not, other will take the decisions for us. Okay? Therefore, in the private sector, the same. In my case, opening doors, my team, and I'm so proud about it, is the most diverse team in the division. Okay? And I'm very proud about it. And one of the things that we are doing, it is also through our key executive, looking for metrics. Okay? Because if you want to be intentional, you need to know where you are, and you need to know where you will be, and you need to measure your success. And you need to see where your success look like. And then in that sense, we are pushing very hard to measure diversity and to measure where our young leaders are, that they have their development plans, and how we will get them to that point.
Thank you for that, Helen. And I also want to turn it to Enrique to follow up on that, because I think the private sector has a role to play. Other institutions have a role to play, including even before you enter the private sector, right? So institutions, education institutions. So for Enrique, how can the private sector and other institutions prioritize Latinos in the international business community?
Yeah, I think it really starts inside, prioritizing Latinos and really sketching out how the company is going to prepare to engage with Latinos. And I think CHCI, is the perfect example, showing up at a place where there's an intersection of policymakers, Latino rising leaders, and the diverse stakeholders that are having that conversation and having the focus. But that's really just a demonstration of what has happened in the planning sessions inside a company. And I think that's why it's important for Latinos to be on the table, to be able to make the case of why it's important to engage. How are we meaningfully engaging with an organization like Congressional Hispanic Caucus through the different engagements that they have throughout the years, making sure that we recruit some of their interns or employers. And so there's that opportunity, I think. How can we engage with organizations like CHCI?
Absolutely. I want to turn back to Leopoldo, who sits at the center of policy and politics on these issues. And we know Latinos are the fastest growing, or among the fastest growing populations in the U.S. 1 in 5 are Latino. And we need everyone involved in the political process to make policy. So I'd love to hear from you. How do you see this issue for Latinos? Can you tell me more about how you see us growing politically and in the policy field on the international stage?
That's a very good question. And from where I'm sitting today and the experience I've had, over the past 20 years on this world of politics and foreign policy and Latin America policy, I think all of us in the room, either us or parents or our abuelos and abuelas, have a history of migration. And, it's very close to each one of us. My brothers and sisters from Puerto Rico are in a different scenario, but they understand exactly what we're talking about for their very own history. But all of us who come from a migrant family or have migrated are here either because of political conditions, dictatorships, oppressive regimes, repression in your home country, are here because of lack of economic opportunity, are here because of violence and other issues impacting the communities where your family were, because of drug trafficking and other forms of organized crime activities. So if you think about that, that takes you to any problem that is not resolved in the home countries where we come from ends up becoming a migration problem in the United States. So for me, it was always an incomplete conversation if we were concerned about migration and we're not concerned about the root causes of migration. And this is a key proposition that President Biden has. One of the reasons why I'm so excited about my potential role, if confirmed by the Senate, in the Inter-American Development Bank is that I will be exactly where you could address the root causes of migration and at the same time creating opportunity in the countries from where all our families come from. So that's the ideal scenario. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Who else will make Latin America a priority in the U.S. political and foreign policy making landscape other than Latinos? We are the natural carriers of that passion and that mission. So the Center for Democracy and Development in the Americas, what we do, together with the work that Latino Victory and other organizations on the empowerment, political empowerment process do, is to try to connect both. We bring together people who think about these issues or have experiences to offer from their private careers or public sector careers to do collaborative research on addressing the root causes of migration, on advocating for a negotiated pathway to democracy in Venezuela, on issues concerning Cuba. So we bring all these people together, addressing all these big issues, including energy transitions. That's going to be a key issue in Latin America. You know, the climate change is impacting the Caribbean countries more than any other place in the hemisphere, yet they are the ones that are less contaminating the world with energy. So, and we need to give them an alternative clean energy, but we also need to save them from the situation. You have Brazil with the Amazon and all of that. So we bring people who do collective research about that. We prepare papers, we interact with members of Congress. And here was Senator Menendez and Congressman Espaillat. Those are our key targets, to keep them current on what we are listening and what we're thinking about these issues. But at the same time, we put together this latest initiative, which is part of the collaboration we have with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, that is called Latinos in Foreign Affairs. And what we want to do, Latinos in Foreign Affairs, Latinos in Latin American Affairs, what we want to do is make sure that both political and potentially appointees come together and be part of a talent bank. And Latino Victory was the recipient of that talent bank. So many of the ambassadorial appointments that were mentioned by Congressman Espaillat, from Cynthia Telles, Yulisa Reynoso, or Juan Gonzalez, who sits in the National Security Advisor for President Biden. We were all part of a ecosystem where we all worked together, even before the election, thinking on these issues. Thinking, what if any one of us gets the opportunity to serve and make change in the region and in our countries? Because it's not only resolving the migration problem by addressing the root causes of migration, it's also about building a partnership with Latin America. And the future of the United States is extremely connected to building successful partnerships in the Americas. And I'm talking about partnerships because I hate when people think about Latin America as the backyard or the front yard. Nobody's yard. Latin America is the neighbor of the United States. And we have to understand, like other regions in the world have, that unless we bring that coalition together of nations in the Americas, the future of both the United States and the countries to the south of the United States is not going to be reaching the potential it has. So building markets, interacting with the private sector, creating opportunities at home and abroad, supply chains, which is one of the big issues we have addressed in our think tank, building reliable supply chains, what we call nearshoring in the region, making sure that America's business and Latin American businesses are working together, and instead of finding our procurement far away in Asia or someplace else, we can do that in the Americas. As a big example, just to finish, think about energy transitions. We're trying to make our cars electric vehicles in the near future. 60% of the lithium in the world is located in Latin America,
Yeah.
in Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, or Peru, mostly in Argentina. But because of lack of appropriate policies, China is the one taking advantage of those resources, and we might be driving cars instead of oil or gasoline coming from Venezuelan oil. We're going to be driving cars with electric batteries fabricated in China with lithium in Argentina, instead of creating a supply chain within the Americas where those batteries are fabricated in the United States and in other countries of the Americas with the lithium we have in Argentina. So that's the vision of partnerships we need to have. And that creates opportunity here and there. So it's all about that, what we do.
Thank you. And I think also I want to just pull out the intentionality bit that you mentioned, that Helen mentioned, the intentionality of the network and bringing, and the fact that you're going to be sitting in this unique position because of intentionality of people around us and the networks that we're a part of that support us. So we need to open it up to Q&A. If you have a question, please raise your hand. If you can introduce yourself and just make it brief if you can. Let's start in the front with the suit over here.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, good morning. I'm sorry, I forgot my Vicks Vapor Rub. I think I'm coming down with a cold. My name is Roger Reyes. I'm a 2023 Wrangle Fellow, actually, so hey, Hermes. And I'm also a master's student at American University. So my question is, to succeed in the international stage, transferable skills are very important. So my question for you is, in your respective experiences, what skills are important for Latino employees to have? And moreover, in what ways can we upskill and reskill to be successful in both the public and private sector? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Do I have a volunteer, one person to answer?
Yeah, I can go
Go ahead,
quickly on the private sector, but I believe I will apply also to public sector. Going again, intentionality, which is your vision and mission of yourself, okay? Where you wanted to go, and education, 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 okay? Will not come by chance. We need to be very educated. We need to, in my case, not only to know the technical side, also to have the background. And I have also a bachelor's degree in political science that helps a lot to have a broad perspective. And the third, risk-taking. Risk-taking. I think that we need to step up. We need to talk about ourselves. We need to promote ourselves. We need to start learning about self-promotion. Okay, that doesn't go against that our culture and be kind. We can be kind, and we can also self-promote ourselves.
I just wanted to say that everybody in this room possibly has a foundation to come into this field that very, very few others have. You're all bilingual, bicultural, and you understand two places in the world just by your own personal experience. That's an incredible asset to start either private or publicly in the world of foreign affairs.
Can I add one thing on that? Or Hermes, as a diplomat, the best skill that I learned, and it was so applicable when I left, is writing. And I mean drafting concisely. I remember when I got my first cable back from my supervisor, full of red and edits. But let me tell you, I learned so much about how to write succinctly and how to brief someone about an issue in less than 5 minutes, and that is applicable in any sector that you go to.
I would just suggest work backwards. So I would say, what is your purpose? 3 sentences of what is your purpose. Remember that purpose, and then you'll be able to navigate all these things that have been mentioned and work from there. So that will get you through the highs and the lows of any career in trying to break into it.
Thank you. Another question? In the back, the young lady with the glasses. There's a mic coming to you.
You're gonna give me.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Laura Gill. I am also from Venezuela. I'm a journalist and a writer.
Oh, wow.
For me, it's a special moment to be in front of such amazing person that has been in our fighting for freedom related to our country. And I was even aware that he will be here, but I want to say thank you because you are making proud all of us every day with your work. And my question is related to definitely Hispanics are making a difference here. Our community is growing, we are getting more educated, we are fighting stereotypes, we are doing things differently than our predecessors. But we are fighting for the same wars. We are still not having a clear path to become citizens. We have to continue be sweeping into the asylum or very difficult processes that are currently in a extremely huge delay by the USCIS. And my question is for you, Leopoldo, how we can definitely make a difference in that process. We are here to learn how to do it, to empower our communities. I am coming from Florida, but I know we have representatives from any of our communities all over the country that are interested in move this apparatus and make this happen.
Thank you for what you said, and thank you for the question. And indeed, I'm mindful that the fact that the president nominated me for this position has an impact in our community because it will be the first time a Venezuelan migrant or immigrant will be not only nominated but eventually confirmed by the Senate for a position of leadership and trust. And the Venezuelan community is growing exponentially in our country. A few years ago, we were 100,000 people, of which a quarter of that were citizens. That was 20 years ago, and it keeps growing. Today, we have almost 200,000 Venezuelan American citizens, citizens of the U.S. But then on top of that, we have like 600,000 people who are either asylum seekers, TPS beneficiaries, parole eligible, and a number of undocumented folks, a significant number of undocumented folks that do not fit any of the boxes and categories out there. While we were in the process of debating Venezuela was part of the debate in the election, as you remember. President Trump and his team had a vision of what to do. And I was always mindful when we were in those rooms saying, listen, yeah, we got to fight for democracy in Venezuela, but we got to be mindful that we're pushing with the harder we get, the more people will flee the country, you know? Sanctions are important, but depending on how you impose them, people are going to suffer the consequences of those. So people are going to come to the United States and to other countries in Latin America. So we got to have a response to alleviate the suffering of the Venezuelans that are coming to the United States. And that's why President Biden was very clear. He promised during the campaign he would deliver TPS, and he did that in the very first 3 months of his administration. Then came humanitarian parole. But now we have the obligation to build a pathway for those holding TPS and for those holding the humanitarian parole, which are going to be here for, at this time, they're already here for 5, 6, 7, 10 years. And they have half of the family already has grown in the United States, or children have been born in the United States. So we got to build a pathway. So we're advocating very strongly these days for a path to residence, a path to permanence for those holding TPS or any other category of pathway in the complexity of the immigration system in the United States. And we hopefully will get that happen.
Thank you, Leopoldo. We are out of time, but I wanted to give just 10 seconds of an opportunity around the board. Thank you so much, first of all. This is an incredible conversation. Let's start with Hermes. Parting thought, word of advice to the audience.
Apply for these fellowships. Apply, put your name, apply for the take the Foreign Service Written Exam. For the women here, there's an organization that's doing some great work called Women of Color, Advancing Peace and Security. And they have a focus on Latinos as well. So I want to plug that in. Nothing from me. Take care.
Thank you.
You are the future of us, okay? We are just opening the doors, but the future is yours. Reach out, look for, network. Again, education and have your dreams high, very high, and you will get it.
Great. Enrique.
Just really be in sync with what are your talents, seek mentorship, say yes to very broad opportunities, and there you go.
I would say dare to do it. When you look the foreign policy space, it looks very white and male. Dare to go there. Dare to rock the boat and be part of that, because you have a space there. And the last thing, for all of us who have the capacity to mentor folks, let's build a network of mentors. It is difficult to navigate this process by yourself. And we need to create, anybody who has an experience to offer to another, be a mentor and find a mentee. You know, always try to connect to people needing that help and match people. The matchmaking of mentors and mentees is a very important thing to do. And if you can help one or two people, you help them to dare and apply and present their resume and just go forward and do it and break those glass ceilings that are there.
Absolutely. Oh my God. There's so many good nuggets here. I want to thank you all for participating in today's discussion. It was lovely. Network. Your network is your net worth. Be intentional about that. And please give a round of applause to our panelists. This is wonderful.